You know, one of the things that often doesn't get looked at enough when evaluating a LMS is what we might think of as uptime and reliability. And wow, I tell you, when I was running RMIT University, so a university of 90,000 students based in Melbourne, Australia, but also with campuses in Singapore and Vietnam and significant partnerships in China, I've got to tell you, when that pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, in literally a 72-hour period, we had to decamp 55,000 students and nearly 10,000 staff from RMIT and our Melbourne campuses and move everybody into their homes for what ended up being over 200 days of lockdown. Uptime and reliability suddenly became very, very real to us. And the fact that we were running on a LMS that was capable of supporting us through all of those transitions in the blink of an eye, because it was a cloud-based product that didn't really care where we were or what system we were plugged into, it was able to just support us through all of those transitions without a hiccup, left me both excited and a little battle-scarred for never taking for granted how important uptime and reliability is when you make your choice around a LMS. And as I look back on it, I am just so glad that we were cloud-based through all of that. So I guess at a meta level, if I was giving you advice about LMS selection, the very first thing I would say is get off premise, get into the cloud, and get into an environment that isn't going to let you down when you need it the most. But if we then jump in behind what I mean by uptime and reliability. So it's really about uninterrupted learning, especially in digital and remote settings. But there is no such thing any longer as purely face-to-face learning. It's all omni-channel. The very best institutions are really thinking about using the tools of the day. Some are physical in classroom settings like I'm in right now, but increasingly they're hybrid. They're the combination of digital and physical. And of course, sometimes they're fully online and sometimes there is no digital in the moment. But the minute our students walk out the door, everything they'll do after a physical environment largely is defined by digital. And so that uninterrupted learning is not something off to the side or only something we think about when we're talking e-learning. It actually is the lifeblood. It's the air we breathe now, is the digital backbone of the learning experience. So it becomes even more important to factor that in your decision making of a LMS, as well as obviously its capabilities for learning, teaching, assessment, etc. Uptime's important because most of the students interacting with your institutions won't be constrained to neat little 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 12 to 5 brackets of time. In fact, when you look at the usage patterns of virtual learning environments, some of the peak times are actually between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. at night. There is no such thing as 5 days a week. It's 24/7. But also what I want you to pause and think about is accessibility for all, including those people that have requirements that might be defined by physical or learning disabilities or some other learning needs that need to be catered for that can't be without access to the appropriate technology. So uptime becomes even more important if the ethos of our institutions is about allowing everybody to be successful, something that has fueled my time in education from the very beginning. It's why I've always focused on technology in education, partially because it allows us to scale, but for me, more importantly, it's about creating access for all. And the final thing, and I'd like you to factor it in as part of your decision making, is trust. Reliability builds trust. If you want people to embrace technology in an education setting, they have to be able to rely upon it, to be there when they have to use it. And that sort of brings me back to what often gets described as software as a service or cloud-based learning. There's no doubt that when you base or you bet your institution on cloud-based over on-premise, you are actually betting on a much more superior platform and a platform that is going to outperform uptime no matter what you've got to spend in supporting your own on-premise solution. It's just the way technology is. You know, I've taken 2 very large universities now on a journey of moving from predominantly on-premise self-supported technologies into the cloud. And it comes with some challenges to get there, but oh my goodness, the benefits are just extraordinary. You know, as much as you may have in your local technology budget, no matter how good your people are to support it, no matter how robust your on-premise data center provider might be, you are never going to be able to deploy the people, the money, the talent, or the infrastructure to keep pace with the world's leading cloud-based hosting providers. And I'm talking about companies here like Amazon Web Services. Just through the sheer scale and economics of the way that they run their business, they can drive robustness, they can drive innovation, they can drive interoperability, they can drive 24/7 support in ways that we just can't on our own as individual institutions. So it becomes a pretty easy choice from my perspective when you're deciding on a LMS. Do you want to take care of all of that, both from a cost burden, a talent burden, but also an opportunity cost perspective? Because every pound, dollar, yen you're spending on supporting all of that that could be done by a third-party provider is time, money, and brainware that isn't being spent on the most valuable things that we do: learning, teaching, research, innovation, and community.